All that said, let's go ahead and dive in. I have to start, of course, with your amazing career team. You know, the world has thrown so many curveballs our way the past 18 months. And Anita, Sandra, Lisa, everyone on the career side has been working hard to juggle all of that and make sure you get access to the best resources, just like today's session. So please send them a little digital love, either in the chat or over email, or better yet, connect with them on LinkedIn, because they're absolutely the hubs of the San Jose State community. Okay, as far as your presenter today, I'm coming to you with kind of an interesting background. I actually started my own career as a kindergarten teacher back in Brooklyn, and then through sort of networking and LinkedIn, had a chance to work for all these great organizations. And one of the places that really transformed my understanding of careers and opportunity was getting the chance to work at LinkedIn right here in the Valley. And the reason for that is, for a long time as a student or a job seeker, I was so naive about how the world worked. I thought you just applied online, you would hear back right away, and you would get these amazing jobs. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work that way. A lot of times I would apply, pour my heart and soul into the application, and just never hear back. Total crickets. And for the first time when I worked at LinkedIn, I finally understood why. I got a chance to sort of shine a little flashlight into the black box of the online hiring process and really understand what's going on behind the scenes. So as we dive in here, just know that I feel your pain. I've definitely been there before. And also, if you wouldn't mind taking a second, fill out the Google form that Sandra just chatted in, because that will help us keep track of today's session. So go ahead and click into that. And just know, hey, there are lots of students like yourselves who've been using these techniques over the last several years to land access to the very best jobs out there. So again, as I was saying before, if your passion is tech, finance, consulting, nonprofit, government, there's going to be great opportunities for you in today's session. Okay, let me start with 3 core principles. The first is especially pertinent here in 2021, and that is when you look at the larger labor market, all these ups and downs, who's hiring, who's firing, it can feel totally like an emotional roller coaster, and ultimately can be downright intimidating, even paralyzing for a job seeker, where you say, whoa, what chance do I, as an individual job seeker, have to control my career fate? But the first thing I want you to do is to change your focus. Go from the macro down to the micro and understand that any individual hire, whether it's at Google or Apple or Facebook or any of these places, is a step-by-step process. And if you've ever taken any engineering classes at San Jose State, you know that when you have a linear process, you can reverse engineer it. You can break it down and pull it apart to take an ultimate advantage. And the place that I want you to do that reverse engineering, that job hacking, if you will, is none other than LinkedIn. And that's for the simple reason that LinkedIn is where the action is. You've got all the world's companies, all the world's recruiters, all the world's jobs, all in one place. And so I want you to understand how this tool works to make the most of it and give yourself the best shot of landing a job you love. And I don't want you to spend a lot of time on LinkedIn worrying about stuff that doesn't matter. Instead, I want you to focus on just the 4 things that every recruiter across the globe does to find great talent. And then in turn, I want you to hack each of those steps, step by step, to give yourself the best advantage. Now, to make the most of today's session, I want to encourage 3 things. First of all, I'll admit, back when I was in school, sometimes I was that guy in the last row, kind of not trying to make eye contact with the professor, trying to lay low. This is not that kind of session. This is all about learning stuff together, learning as a community. And so I really want you to lean in. Number 1, as a former teacher, I'm going to throw a ton of pop quizzes your way. And I want you to engage with them right in the Zoom chat, even if you're not sure of the answer. Just give me your best guess. That's awesome. And then number 2, don't just sort of sit there and say, oh, that's cool. Actually get your hands dirty. Volunteer to do live demos with me one-on-one. Root on your classmates in the chat. And everything we're doing on my screen, do on your screen in real time. That's the best way to learn. Build it into your muscle memory. And then third and finally, the one thing that I always hated as a student is I might have a really burning question and I would hold it till the end and then I would forget about it. Don't be in that position. If you've got a question that's top of mind, ask it in the chat at any point, and I'll take those in real time. So with all that said, let's dive into our first pop quiz. So again, imagine that you're a recruiter on LinkedIn, because every recruiter is, and you're at Apple or Cisco or Google, and you're trying to find awesome talent on the site. What's the first thing you search for? Is it A, degree? I need someone with a BA or a BS or an MBA. Is it school? I need a Spartan or a Trojan or a Cardinal. Or is it function? I need a product manager or a product marketer or a project manager. Give me your best guess right now in the chat. And I have to give a big shout out to Paul for kicking things off. Paul says C, Carolina says C, Kimberly says C, Ali says C, Anouk says C. I think everyone is saying C, and I'm happy to say that everyone is absolutely correct. To really understand this and to really prove it to you, I want you to learn about the single most important screen in the entire hiring process. And unfortunately, this is a screen that most students know nothing about. Because even if you used LinkedIn before, you've probably used the free site, the one that 700 million professionals around the globe use all the time. But this is not that. This, as you can see, is LinkedIn Recruiter. This is the $10,000 per year per seat tool that every recruiter in the world happily pays for because it gives them access to all of the world's talent. And if you look at how this tool is designed, you can start to understand how your own career fate is tied to your profile and to how recruiters search. Because as you'll see, the very first thing that recruiters search for is not for a random generic student or generic BA or BS holder. Instead, it's for a specific person who can do a specific job at the company. Project manager, product manager, producer. And the reason that's so important is that so many students, myself included when I was in school, have totally generic LinkedIn profiles. They say, I'm a student at San Jose State. I'm a student at Berkeley. And the unfortunate part, of course, is no one's searching for that generic talent. Instead, they want to figure out, hey, awesome student, rising star, what can you do for me? Can you be a project manager? Can you be an analyst? How can you serve my company and my job description's needs? So before we dive into the profile, before we dive into the guts of LinkedIn, I want to start with this critical foundational step, which is knowing where you belong. Not just saying, okay, I have a lot of friends who are going into tech or consulting, but this is the right path for me. And even if you're feeling a little confused, and you're like, well, I'm not sure because I'm kind of torn between a couple of different things, I want you to volunteer. I want you to either raise your hand on Zoom or go over to the Zoom chat and put in these two magic words, I'm in. And I'm going to give you a surefire path to find the perfect career space for you, the one that gives you the best chance to do work that you love. So again, the first person to raise their hand or enter into the chat gets this unique opportunity to figure out that perfect path that will take them to work that they're super excited about. Okay, a couple of folks are coming in here. We've got Kimberly, we've got Carolina. I believe Kimberly was first. So Carolina, Tarun, others, hold on for 1 second. Kimberly, if you wouldn't mind unmuting your line, and I'll go ahead and put that on your side. There you go, Kimberly. Will everyone please send a lot of love Kimberly's way for being that brave first volunteer. Please give her a big Spartan shout out right in the chat, and welcome Kimberly. Kimberly, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing great, especially now that you volunteered. So Kimberly, tell me this. Number one, what is some of the stuff that you love doing? So it could be, working with data, working with people, leading projects. And then give me your career hypothesis. What is the path that you think might be a good fit for those unique gifts?
So as a former flight engineer,
Whoa.
I really like project management, but unfortunately I can't do the physical aspects of flying engineer job, but I liked the administrative portions of it and planning the missions and maintenance and all that stuff. So coming back into school, I'm finding that project management, that kind of solutions stuff is definitely what I like to do.
Yeah, that's so cool. And what is it about project management that really speaks to you? Is it sort of working with people in the trenches? Is it getting everything organized on a Gantt chart? What really appeals to you almost at like a DNA level?
Realistically, it's working with other people and finding better solutions to do things, work smarter, not harder fashion.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's something that I've always really enjoyed. And, when you get that collaborative group and you may all be kind of nervous, but you have the same objective and you start getting ideas across the board and just kind of leading it and facilitating people. That's a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think that skill set will carry you far. So I love that you've done the self-reflection to really figure out your superpower. Now, what if I turned it and said, hey, that's your superpower, that's your gift. What's your kryptonite, Kimberly? What do you hate to do? Maybe you're great at everything, who knows, but.
No, I would say hiring has never been very fun for me
Sure.
at times. And I have a little bit of OCD. So I guess sometimes relenting control and kind of giving it to others. Sometimes I've gotten a lot better over the years being in positions I've been in, but there's still some times that I'm very particular the way I like things. And it's kind of hard to allow others to do it the way they want to do it.
Yeah, and that's probably what makes you such a good project manager, right? You've got to be a little OCD because someone's got to be organized. It better be you, right? Cool. So let's do this. Let's explore the world of project management jobs and try to get a sense of which ones might be a good fit for you. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Okay, so check this out. I was kind of promoting this a little bit ahead of time, but for those who didn't catch this, this is the alumni tool for San Jose State on LinkedIn. This is actually the product I worked on at LinkedIn. And I was so proud of it because even without paying LinkedIn a cent, you have access to the career paths of almost 300,000 Spartans, all searchable and filterable by where they are, what they do, even what they studied. And so if I was in your shoes, Kimberly, I would want to come here right away. And again, everyone can follow along on their own screen with their own searches and say, I want to learn about the Spartans who are specifically in this program and project management space. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay, so we start with this really great cut, which is 300,000 alumni, way too many. Now we're down to under 10,000 in the space. Now, when you look at either these locations or these companies, do any of these sort of end outcomes really speak to you? Like, are you curious about working in any of these places?
Cisco definitely looks like one. Tesla would be definitely interesting.
Yeah.
Part of what I would hope to get into is get back in the aviation community. So something like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Collins Aerospace.
Absolutely. So what you saw me doing here is I'm just plugging in the stuff that you're interested in. So Lockheed, Boeing, who knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have your dream list, right? The exact alumni doing the exact job you're interested in at the exact firms that speak to you. So this is where I want you to start your journey. So you come down here and you see these folks over at these great organizations, and you've got someone who's got a PMP over here and a product manager over there. Why don't we start with Waleed? Waleed's a program manager, and Waleed is over at Cisco, like so many Spartans are, which is awesome. So if you check out Waleed's profile, you can get a sense of his path. And interestingly, he's been at both Tesla and Cisco. So in some way, he's your perfect guinea pig, right?
Yeah.
He's been through both experiences and can help you compare them. So now I'm going to put you in the driver's seat, Kimberly, or the aviator seat more aptly. If I want to reach out to Waleed and learn about his experience to understand what it feels like to be a program manager in these firms, what do I say to him?
I will let him know that I'm a fellow Spartan.
Yeah.
I would tell him that, I'm interested in the project management field, and I'm just curious as far as what his career path was, and, maybe some advice and things that maybe he would have done differently, or things he learned that might help him go farther.
I love that. And just in 2 sentences, you've nailed it, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of coming in and just saying, hey, I'm a Spartan, give me a job. You started with what bonds you together, same tribe, same alma mater, same passion. You didn't ask him for anything in terms of giving me an internship right off the bat. Instead, all I want to do is learn, which every alum loves. And then what are you going to ask for specifically? What's the next step for you and Waleed?
Would you be willing to meet up and, have a
Yeah,
conversation and
yeah,
connect?
absolutely. You can be incredibly respectful about it. Um, but any chance you have even 10 minutes for a quick Zoom chat? I think that just lowers the bar, right? You're
Hmm.
not asking for an hour of his time. You're not asking for a whole, meal. Just a little time to pick his brain, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna actually paste this into the chat as I did with the link to the alumni tool, because again, none of this stuff has to be rocket science. It doesn't have to be 5 paragraphs of Shakespearean prose. It's just, hey, here's what you and I have in common. Here's what I'd love to learn. And here's a yes or no question that you can respond to really easily, no matter how busy you are. So I have a feeling that Waleed's going to say yes. He's going to say, aha, Kimberly is like the new me at San Jose State, passionate about this space, wants to learn more. Of course, I'd love to chat with her. But here's your big question, Kimberly. In those 10 or 15 minutes with Waleed, what are you going to ask him to discover if his path is the right path for you?
Basically, what is his likes and dislikes about the job? Like what drew him to the job? What are the things he probably wished that, he could probably do less with? That's why I kind of going back on my journey into the service, I did that whole pros and cons thing, and I want
Yeah.
to know the good stuff about the job and the ugly, the good, bad, and the ugly. So I'd
Yeah.
probably want that same kind of idea this way, to know, is this exactly what I want, or is this the right kind of industry or program management? Is there a different sector program management I'd probably be more preferable in, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I love that. And that is the advantage of reaching out to a fellow Spartan, is you're not
Okay.
getting propaganda. It's not the company line. This is the real scoop on what it feels like on the inside. Only a Spartan can give that to you. And so I love that you're going right there. And by the way, it's totally fine to just say, what do you do all day, Waleed? What does it even mean to be a program manager at Cisco? Because we might have one vision in our mind that's totally different from reality. So let me throw out 2 scenarios in terms of Waleed's answer to that question. Tell me
Okay.
how you would react. So scenario 1, Waleed says, you know what I love about being a program manager at Cisco, Kimberly, is that I get to work with so many interesting people, and I'm bringing them all together to accomplish huge things. And we're getting it done in an efficient way. And I feel like I'm making a big dent in the universe. When he says that, how do you feel?
That would make me feel pretty excited.
Right? It's like ding, ding, ding. You just won the career lottery, right?
Yeah.
You know your unique gifts, and now you found an outlet for them out there in the world. But what about scenario 2? Kimberly, what I love about being a PM at Cisco is I spend so much time hiring people, and I love to do hiring. And also, I'm really sort of delegating all the time and just letting everyone else run with what they want to focus on. And I love that aspect. How does that feel?
I mean, it makes me a little nervous, but at the same time, though, I also feel like weaknesses can be eventual strengths and things that we can learn in, to do better. Because obviously, it's something I'm not comfortable with, but maybe it's just I don't know. I could learn a better way to do it that makes me, a little more confident. Because I think more weakness is more when you're not confident about something. And so I know, since that's something I'm not always confident in, especially in what I'm currently doing now, because it's not my particular field. um that if anything, I mean, yeah, I would probably respond with, even though that's kind of nerve-wracking, I mean, if anything, it's a challenge, and I like challenges.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I love that attitude. But let me give you a little bit of sort of counterintuitive advice.
Hmm.
What I've seen over the course of my career is because the American culture is so strong on this idea of self-improvement, always be working on your weaknesses, always trying to get better at things, is that a lot of times we're so focused on that we're not playing to our strengths. And when I see people quit great jobs out of Google or an Apple or a place like that, it's often because they took a job that was right for someone else, but wasn't really a fit for them. And so my feeling is our time on this planet is too short to always be trying to make up for things and get better at stuff. And yeah, we should absolutely keep learning. But if you know what you love doing already in your heart, Kimberly, don't deny that. Don't put that on mute. Play to that time and again, and that will take you so far in your career. So Kimberly, I've got to give
Makes
you
sense.
big kudos, because what you just demonstrated are the 3 most critical steps that any Spartan can do. Don't just sit there and take the jobs that everyone else is interested in. Find the people who've done the things you're excited about. Reach out the right way, ask the right questions, and be so much wiser than anyone else when you take the plunge. So thank you so much, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Okay. So Kimberly has just nailed it for us here. Really set the bar high for our next volunteer. But I do want to speak to a couple of questions that came in. So Anita asked a question, which is awesome. What happens when you find a professional, but you're not a second or third level connection, and you get a LinkedIn message saying that you need an email address to send a message via LinkedIn? Oh, such a good question, Anita. So one thing that I don't want you to do, even though I kind of use it as a shortcut on my screen, is pay LinkedIn $100 a month just to reach out to Spartan alumni. So quick question for you, Anita. Is there a San Jose State alumni directory where someone could look up the email address of a given alum?
Not necessarily. No,
Okay,
we go through LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah, so no worries. I've got an even better solution, because the honest truth is a lot of people don't even update their alumni directories at their various alma maters. But we do know that people are absolutely checking their work email boxes probably 10, 20 times a day. And so if you're able to get into Waleed's actual Cisco account, you know that you're going to be golden. Your message will be seen. So here's another bonus hack. I would come over to a site like hunter.io. And again, the link for all this stuff is right in the chat. And I would say, hey, I want to figure out what is the common email address format at cisco.com. And Hunter does all the heavy lifting for me. It finds 7,300 publicly available email addresses, and it figures out that the most common pattern is first initial, full last name at cisco.com. And just like that, we have W Ibadi at cisco.com, and we know our message is going to get through, even if we're not connected on LinkedIn, even without paying LinkedIn a cent. That's what I want you to use. Always be a savvy job seeker.
Thank you. That's a great hack.
Cool. Thanks for raising that. Ali says, can you repeat how we find others in the field we're interested in through the alumni page? Great question. So when you come over to this tool, and again, I'm going to go back to the very beginning here so you can see what it looks like before you do anything else. And here's a link so everyone can try this on their own. You can basically click anything you see on the screen when you want to filter. So for example, if you want to move to SoCal after graduation, just show me all the Spartans down there. If you want to be at Facebook and help Facebook fix their problems today, go over to Facebook. But you're not limited to just that. You can slide over and say, hey, here are the people who are in operations or sales or finance. And I can really focus on alumni based on function. And then one thing I didn't even show, but I think this is so cool, is if you're like me and you have maybe a liberal arts major and you're not even sure what you can do with that, well, guess what? You come over to the studied area and say, hey, I'm a political science major. Where's that going to take me? And you run that little search. It turns out there have been 4,000 poli-sci majors coming from San Jose State. And look at the cool places they're working. Obviously in government, but also tech, higher education, startups, all sorts of fascinating areas. And you can dig into any of those folks by filtering based on major. So great question, Ali. However you want to slice and dice it, all this data is at your fingertips. Okay, so those were great questions, but I've got to come back with another question for you all, which is, when the recruiter behind the scenes is running their search on LinkedIn, and again, maybe they're searching for a project manager over at Tesla or at Cisco, which of these three profile sections do you think is most heavily weighted by LinkedIn's algorithm? Is it A, your work experience, B, your recommendations, or C, your headline, that little piece of text right beneath your name? So again, come over to the chat, just like Ali, and give me your best guess, even if you're not sure, which of these three sections gets the most love from LinkedIn's algo. So Ali says A, looks like Linda says C, Kimberly says C, Alicia says A, Vineet says C, 2 agrees, Audrey says B, I love that, spicing it up. Mizuki says C, Adeline says C, and probably more C's than anything, but definitely a smattering of A's and B's. So I'm happy to say that the C's have it. And again, keep me honest here, everybody. Don't just let me get away with some bold claim like that. Make me prove it to you. And the way I want to do that is I want to bring you back to the source of truth, where all the hiring action starts, right on LinkedIn Recruiter. And check out this sample search. A recruiter is searching for a project manager, maybe at Cisco. And then lo and behold, what arises? Well, there's this curious pattern. that single keyword of the job title itself is repeated time and again in this one section, the headline, the headline, the headline. And the reason behind that is just a simple understanding of their user base. LinkedIn's engineers are no fools. They know that we all love to game things all the time as job seekers. And so LinkedIn is definitely aware that you're going to come in and try to stuff keywords into your about section or your work experience section, and they may not always be the most reliable. On the other hand, your headline is limited to just 220 characters, the shortest piece of text on your entire profile. And therefore, it is the single most authentic and true signal of who you are and what you can do for the firm. And that's why it gets more love in the algorithm. So I want to start with that insight, but don't want to stop there. I want to apply all these behind the scenes secrets to help one lucky Spartan get a free profile makeover right now on the spot. Now, I might normally charge $200 for this service, but for the time being, it's on the house. Whoever is first gets that lucky chance. And this time it's Ali. So Ali, feel free to turn on your mic, and I would love to chat with you about how to turn your profile into a recruiter magnet. Ali, welcome to the session.
Sorry, it's a little bit dark, actually.
No worries, no worries. We were just talking before the session about how even 18 months into COVID, a lot of us are still doing these sessions in our pajamas and all that. So just the fact that I can see you, the fact that you have your camera on is awesome.
All right, awesome.
Okay, so tell me this. Obviously, you're getting the sense now that there's really no such thing as a great generic LinkedIn profile. Because again, no recruiter is searching for generic talent. So what is the job title that you want to be found for? And then we'll use that to optimize your profile.
I would say, I guess right now, just human resources in general, or like with recruiting or talent acquisition for the most part.
Very cool. And are you coming out of undergrad right now?
Yes, actually, this is my last semester. I'm going to be graduating by the end.
Cool, congratulations.
Thank you.
And so what I'm thinking then is, if you want to get started kind of at like the entry level of the recruiting space, a lot of folks come in as sourcers. I don't know if you've heard that title before.
No, I haven't.
So like, I'll give you an example. Like at Khan Academy where I work, we have a recruiter who maybe has 5-10 years of experience going out there and recruiting candidates, but they're assisted by someone who's a little more entry level, who just goes on LinkedIn all day and sources great talent. And then ultimately over time, you move up the totem pole till, someday you're the VP of People Ops at Google or someplace like that. Sounds good?
Yep.
Okay, so let's test out our little theory here. So if Ali wants to be a sourcer for his first job out of school, and I was searching for a sourcer on LinkedIn, what do you happen to notice about everyone who's winning the LinkedIn lottery here, Ali? What do they all have in common?
They have the LinkedIn Gold thing.
Yeah, LinkedIn Premium. So we'll talk about that in a second. That's a very astute observation. Let me actually expand it so we can see. I think that the funny thing is that these people are all recruiters, remember? And so they have it because it's being bought for them by their organizations.
Oh, okay.
So don't read too much into that. But if you just focus purely on keywords, because that's the realm of LinkedIn's algorithm, what keyword do they all have in common?
They all say sourcer, I would say.
And specifically, where on their profile does it say that?
On their headline.
That's right. Again, that little piece of text right below their name. And I know it seems so obvious. You're like, wait a second. This is LinkedIn's infamous algorithm. It's like simple, just pattern matching, but it really is just that. What LinkedIn needs to know is, hey, are you in the game or not? Are you a sourcer, or are you a consultant, or are you an engineer? And that's why it prioritizes that little snippet of text first and foremost. So Ali, are you okay if I pull your profile onto the screen, not to criticize, but to show it love, to get it onto every recruiter's radar?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I love that. That sort of can-do attitude will take you far. So we're going to pull that up, and let me know, Ali, when you see your profile make it onto the screen here. I believe this is you down here. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. LinkedIn never fails. So here we go. We've got your profile. Now, based on what we just talked about, with that most critical first cut that the algorithm always applies, either you're in or you're out,
Mhm.
Right now, are you going to be in when I look for sourcers?
I'm gonna be in.
You're not going to be in, unfortunately, because what don't you have in your headline?
Oh yeah, I don't all I have is like student. I don't have any thing about sorcerer yet.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. Like, again, every student starts off there because that's the default on LinkedIn. So I totally get it.
Yeah.
But especially given that you're going into the HR space, you want to be savvier about LinkedIn than most.
Mhm.
So what are you gonna add to your headline to make sure that you are in for future searches?
I mean, I can mention about how passionate about HR, since I don't really have any experience as of right now, but I can mention that, I am passionate about potentially joining a role in human resources.
Yeah. And I think what you've just done there is you've indicated something really important, which is so many students get caught up in imposter syndrome. They say, well, I'm not a sourcer today, so how could I put it on my profile?
Mhm.
Well, the beautiful thing about LinkedIn's algorithm is it doesn't care about modifiers, things like passionate, future, seeking, open. So you could say, hey, student at San Jose State University, exploring sourcer opportunities.
Mhm.
Student at San Jose State, passionate about sourcing jobs. Whatever kind of formulation you want,
Yeah,
all that LinkedIn cares about is that job title itself. Does that feel fair to you?
definitely.
Okay, so that's the first cut. Now, as you may have noticed, there's another keyword cut that also comes in a few steps later. Not only is the recruiter searching for job titles, they're also searching for skills. And I have to ask you a big question here, Ali.
Mhm.
Do you happen to know all 50 of the most important skills to be found for sourcer jobs?
No, I don't.
Okay, and me neither. So we're in the same boat. But let me throw you a lifeline. Do you happen to know where recruiters might be feeding you those skills, feeding you those keywords every single day? Where could you find them if you wanted to look?
Um,
And if anyone knows on the chat, feel free to plug it in. Aha, Linda, too. The job description. What do you think, Ali?
um, I agree with them. The job description.
Yeah, when in doubt, phone a friend. Better yet, phone a Spartan, right?
Yeah.
So it's absolutely true. It's so funny. As a job seeker myself, I hate job descriptions. They're so long, so complicated, hard to figure out what's really going on.
Yeah.
But if we were to come in here and say, hey, show me all the sourcer jobs,
Mhm.
it turns out that hiding within all this massive text, are things like recruiting strategy and sourcing skills and all these different keywords that you want to make sure you're leading with on your profile.
Mhm.
So, Ali, as a thank you for being such a rock star volunteer today, how would you like a customized set of keywords just for your profile?
Awesome.
Okay, so
I'm
here's what I would
totally.
do. Let's come over to a separate site called jobscan.co. And the beautiful thing about JobScan is that it basically gives you a chance as a candidate to simulate how these algorithms work. So the first thing you're going to feed it is you're going to feed it all the keywords on your current profile. That's over on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, you're going to feed it all the skills straight out of the job description. And by the way, you can absolutely do this for maybe 5 or 10 jobs that you're really excited about. And that way you make sure you're covering your bases. It's not just one job here, one job there, but specifically trends across Facebook and Adobe and Tesla and all these firms. So we're going to copy and paste all that good stuff right into the second space. And now, Ali, are you ready for the big moment of truth, the big reveal?
Definitely.
Okay, let's do it. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, do not fret, Ali. Even if you have a low match rate when you begin, there's always opportunity to make it better. In fact, when I started out trying to break into tech as a former kindergarten teacher, my match rate was 0. So that just shows you that there's a lot of upside still out there. So here's what JobScan did for you. First of all, look through all those job descriptions and figure out here are the most important keywords that are consistently being called out. Things like recruiting, sourcing, process, research, all that good stuff. And then over on your profile, here's how often you had those terms or whether you had them at all. Now, I happen to notice that you right now have absolutely nothing on your profile about research, and yet that appears 4 times in the job descriptions. Tell me this, Ali. Have you ever done any kind of research ever in your career?
I not conducting any research, but I was a research assistant for a professor on campus for about a year or two, actually.
Aha, I had a feeling. It's pretty hard to get out of San Jose State without doing a little research at some point along the way. So
Yeah.
here's the big thing. LinkedIn is both art and science. We've talked a lot about the science so far, the algorithm and how it weights stuff. But the art of LinkedIn is finding ways to figure out, how do I integrate all those critical keywords into my profile? So where on your profile, Ali, could you include the keyword research?
Maybe I can do in the experience page.
Yeah, absolutely. So where would you work that in? How would you say it?
I mean, I guess I can explain how I was a research assistant for about a year and a half with a professor on campus, analyzing data to help their research papers. And yeah, that's
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So easiest thing is just add it as a job, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
like research assistant, San Jose State, already you've got the most critical keyword right there in the job title, research assistant.
yeah,
And then the bullet points write themselves, right?
yeah,
Led research with leading professor at San Jose State, driving 3 new publications, and generating key insights for that sector. And then all of a sudden, you start to build not just one example of it, but keyword density. That same keyword appears over and over again throughout your profile, which makes the algorithm really happy because it doesn't want to just see it once, it wants to see it throughout the profile. And so you could put it there, you could put it in your about section. And I'll show you a little hack right here from my own profile. The about section is so beautiful because it gives you a really open space where you can basically put in anything you want. And so on my about section, I've got an entire series of keywords just for the algorithm that I want to be found for. And so if you want to copy my template, if you want to use these little bullet points, feel free to come over to my profile. Feel free to apply it right away. And then finally, when in doubt, just come to the skills section. There probably aren't that many recruiters who are going to search for generic things like communication, but they might search for research. They might search for LinkedIn. And so those are the things that you want to list here to make sure you're discovered. Okay, Ali?
all right. Thank you, Jeremy.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. And as a thank you for being an amazing participant in our little career game show, if you will, I got to give you a parting gift. So I'm going to give you all the keywords for that particular search. I'm going to send it to you over LinkedIn so you have that. And I know the last thing you want in your final semester is more homework, but I'm going to give you a little assignment, okay? Okay, there you go. So Ali's off to the races. And by the way, everyone can do the exact same thing with their searches. You're given 2 free searches a month on JobScan. And if you put those to work, now you know what your most important keywords are too. So if you've got any questions whatsoever about the profile or the keyword exploration process, feel free to ask those in the chat. But for now, let's talk about the next stage in the process. So again, back to our poor recruiter on the other side of the screen who's actively looking for a project manager at Cisco or a product manager at Tesla or whatever the job is. And they have all these great candidates, but they only have one email left, one LinkedIn message to send before they're out of them for the rest of the month. Who do you think they're going to send it to? Is it A, the candidate who's raising their hand on LinkedIn and saying, hey, I'm in the game, I'm looking for a new job? Is it B, someone who knows someone at their company who's plugged into Cisco or plugged into Tesla? Or is it C, someone who's actively following the company on LinkedIn and signaling their interest that way? So I see Linda saying B and Francis saying C, Manasa saying C, Rashika saying A, Audrey saying C, and then Mizuki agrees, Reina agrees. So probably more C's than anything, but definitely some A's and B's. And it turns out you're all correct, I'm very happy to say, because when you come back to that LinkedIn recruiter screen, you're going to understand the plight of recruiters everywhere, which is the downside of LinkedIn being so massive, having 700 million plus profiles, is that even with a highly filtered search, you still get too many candidates. So what's a recruiter to do? You don't have 43,000 emails to send out. How do you choose who to engage? Well, the easy thing you can do is you can figure out, hey, who is likely to respond? Who is actively showing me signals that they're going to be a great candidate for me and are not just going to ghost me when I send them a message. And so to illustrate these 3 really powerful hacks, I would love each of you to chat in a company and a job that you're excited about. So it could be, I want to be in sales over at Apple, or I want to be analyst over at Kaiser Permanente. Whatever you're excited about, put that into the chat right now, and I will show you 3 extremely powerful hacks that are high ROI. And what I mean by that is, on the numerator side, you're getting massive upside. On the denominator side, it's like 5 or 10 seconds of work. And that's what we all want, of course. Okay, so Saban is first. So Soban, so you said Cisco financial analyst. Let me show you exactly how you would signal that to recruiters at Cisco. So in this case, the first thing they're going to think about is, hey, I have a limited number of emails. I don't want to waste them on someone who loves their current job and will never leave. In that case, I'm going to filter for people who are specifically open to new opportunities. And the way that you signal that is you come right back to your profile, and at the very top, you see the section called Open to Work. And as simple as it seems, it's nothing short of a bat signal to the world of recruiters, saying, hey, Cisco, hey, Tesla, I'm in the game. So in Soban's case, I would come in here and say, hey, I want to be found for financial analysis. Maybe I want to be focused on jobs in the Bay Area on site, or maybe remote work. If you're liking those pajamas, you can choose the specific locations, the timeline, the kind of work, from internship to full-time. And by the way, if you are currently employed, maybe you have a part-time job and you don't want your boss finding out about this, what you can do is either signal this to everyone on LinkedIn or only recruiters, and specifically only recruiters who don't work at your current company, so you don't have to worry about the HR department narking you out to your current boss. So no matter where you are in your own process, please, please, please shine this bat signal. And when you do that, you're going to be filtered in versus filtered out. That's the first step. And again, like I promised, 10 seconds of work, but massive upside, massive opportunity. Okay, number 2, I'm in that classic position as a recruiter where I've got lots of great candidates, but only one message to send. If I have candidates who have no connections to my company, but one candidate who's absolutely plugged in and knows someone on the inside, almost every time I'm going to send it to the person who's plugged into my firm. And that's just human nature, right? We all want to have connective tissue with the people that we reach out to because they're more likely to respond, easier to do a background check on. And so if you want to be filtered in here, the easiest way to have lots of company connections is mathematically just have lots of connections, period, especially diverse connections. And the biggest sort of tragedy I see with this is so many students on LinkedIn have 50 or 100 connections, and yet they know 500 or 1,000 people. So even before you spend a second going out there and building new connections, just get credit for the people that you already know, because that can get you filtered in. And here's a really powerful hack to get you started. So come back to LinkedIn, and this time come to the My Network tab at the very top. And again, here's a link right here in the chat to help you find that on your screen. And then what I want you to do is be a really savvy Spartan. Don't just do one-by-one connections, do it at scale, Silicon Valley style. So you come over to this Add Personal Contact section, you go to More Options, and then you start to feed the beast, feed the machine. And you're basically giving LinkedIn your Gmail address book, because that's a complete digital archive of everyone I've corresponded with. And so now LinkedIn says, hey, you've corresponded with Clint, with Meg, with Peter. Why don't you get credit for those connections on LinkedIn? And it sucks them in and gives me a chance to connect. And you could do the exact same thing with your phone's address book using the LinkedIn app. And again, for 5 minutes of work, you have now grown your connections from 50 or 100 to 500 or 1,000, which just gives you a way better chance of being filtered in here versus filtered out. And then third and finally, this is so simple, but no students know that this even exists, is recruiters can know on the back end, do you love us or not? Are you showing us any love on LinkedIn, or are you giving us the stiff arm? And the simplest thing to do to show the love to companies on LinkedIn is say, hey, I'm going to follow you. So if in this case, Soban wants to make sure that Cisco is feeling the love, they can come right over here, search for that company on LinkedIn, and click this one little follow button. And that single click, 3 seconds of work, is going to take them from being filtered out to filtered in because now Cisco feels confident that Soban is truly interested in them, not just in jobs more generally. So please, please, please take advantage of these hacks. They don't take a long time at all, but they can give you a massive advantage as you search for opportunity. Okay, one last pop quiz, and then we're going to close up for the afternoon. So we've talked a lot about process, and I know Spartans love to understand how everything works, understand all the steps, but I know what you love even more is outcomes, results. So at the end of the day, which of these ways of applying for a job is going to give you the biggest advantage to actually getting hired, actually getting into the promised land? Is it A, applying on a company's website, so Cisco.com, Tesla.com? Is it applying through a job board like LinkedIn or Indeed? Or is it applying through a referral? And I can see that you all are so well coached across Spartan Nation, because everyone from TK to Audrey to Alicia to Venkata, everyone is saying C, and you get it. You know, it's basic human nature, right? People don't hire resumes, they don't hire keywords, they don't even hire LinkedIn profiles. People hire people. And one thing we all know about people is that we're always looking for trust. And if someone on my team or at my company tells me that you're awesome, that means a lot more to me than even the best keyword in the world. So it's no surprise then that when you look at the data, the vast majority of all applicants across the country are coming in through the usual suspects, career sites, job boards. But unfortunately, when you see who's actually being hired, it's a much smaller percentage. Whereas there is this very savvy minority in the upper left-hand corner who's just 7% of all applicants, and yet they're soaking up the vast plurality of all actual hires. They're the people who are getting the brass ring. They're the ones who are crossing the finish line first, all because they had a better way to apply. So to demonstrate how to get a referral at pretty much any company in the world, let me actually come back to something that was shared before. So if I recall correctly, Soban said, I want to be a financial analyst at Cisco. And then Tarun said, I want to be a software engineer at Apple. So Tarun, I want to give you some advice here that applies not only to Apple, not only to engineering, but pretty much any job you ever want to get. And this is the absolute best way to get that advantage. So the first thing you want to do is you want to start with the broadest set of Apple employees who could potentially give you a referral. So you come over here to Apple, you search for the company on LinkedIn, and then you click on their company page. And you might say, ho hum, you know, it's a kind of like a marketing page, an advertising page. But hiding in plain sight is this amazing hack, which is that you can generate your own employee directory for Apple just by clicking on the number of employees. And I promise you, having worked at Apple myself, this employee directory is more powerful than even the one Apple has on its own servers, because LinkedIn knows more about these people. It knows where they went to school, what they studied, what their skills are. And now you know too, because you have LinkedIn on your side. And I've included that link right in the chat so you can play along with me. So if I was in Tarun's shoes, here's what I would do. I would say, I'm a savvy Spartan, I'm an engineer. I don't want to waste time reaching out to people who are not going to respond. I want to start with low-hanging fruit, and that's first-degree connections. So that's where I begin. People that I already know, especially because I just imported my address books. So then it turns out, aha, here's Joyce, who I used to work with when I was at LinkedIn. I'm going to go ahead and send Joyce a message asking for a referral, and she's going to totally do it, not just because Joyce loves me or wants to work with me, but because Apple will pay her to do that. If I am hired by Apple based on Joyce's referral, she will be paid anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000, depending on how hard it is to fill that role. That's the power of a referral bonus. And so when in doubt, reach out to someone you know on the inside, because it's a win-win. Big win for you getting the job, big win for your friend getting the bonus. So that's the first place I'd start. But if I don't know anyone directly, I'm definitely not lost. I'm going to go over here from first degree to second degree. In other words, friends of friends, kind of like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon style. And I'm going to say, hey, I've got a lot of people that I can plug into at Apple, but I want to plug into the exact right people. So I click on all filters to do an advanced search. I come on down here to the keyword section and say, show me only people on the software engineering side. And I run that search. And voila, here is the VP of software engineering, the big boss themselves. And so if I want to get in touch with Andreas, probably reaching out directly is not going to get me there. Andreas is like, who is this guy? But if I reach out to Alan, who I used to work with, and say, Alan, would you introduce me to Andreas? Voila, my chances of getting through have just exponentially increased because, again, it's that relationship piece. Andreas may not know me, but he knows Alan, and a friend of Alan could be a friend of his. So always use your mutual connections to get your foot in the door. And even if you don't know anybody, even if you don't have a friend who knows anybody at Apple, all is not lost because you have so many different identities and affiliations to play on. You know, obviously, you are part of a Silicon Valley powerhouse. You are part of a legacy and a dynasty that San Jose State has built over years and decades. And so by searching this, you can easily find hundreds or even thousands of Spartans on the inside to hook you up. So that's one way. But you might say, well, maybe there are no Spartans that are on the team that I want to join. What other affiliations do I have? You could say, well, you know, I used to work at Intel. I was an intern there before I decided to go full-time at Apple. And then you discover, aha, almost 5,000 former Intel employees who you can reach out to also as a fellow alum. Not a school alum, but a company alum, someone who shares something in common. And then finally, even if you have none of those things going for you, all is not lost because you can always go to the search bar and say, hey, one thing I have going for me is I love to volunteer with Habitat for Humanity. I love building houses on the weekend. And it turns out that 60 Applers also feel the same way. And you can reach out to learn about their experience and see how it feels relative to your values. So the bottom line is for everyone who's watching today, if you want to give yourself the absolute best chance of ultimately crossing that finish line, don't put all of your hopes and dreams in an unreliable bucket. Instead, take advantage of the single best, most powerful hack to give yourself an edge in the hiring process. And that, of course, is getting a referral. So now, as we close up, I want to recap a couple of things that we discussed today, also give you some bonus goodies that I alluded to. And I would love to stay on the line and answer any questions on your mind. So if you have any questions whatsoever, from should I buy LinkedIn Premium to what are our endorsements for on LinkedIn? What should I be posting on LinkedIn? This is a safe space to ask. I no longer work at LinkedIn, so I don't have to give you the party line. Instead, I'm going to tell you the truth about what matters and what doesn't. So please, please, please put those questions into the chat, or better yet, just raise your hand on Zoom and I will call out to you to give you a chance to ask those questions. Okay, so quick recap of what we've covered together. First of all, the big theme for today is you can spend all this time on LinkedIn or doing any kind of job search activity that doesn't matter. And I don't want you to waste your precious time on that stuff. Instead, I want you to see exactly how hiring works and focus all of your efforts on that. So first of all, if you know that recruiters want focused candidates, not generic candidates, well, guess what? You got to get focused. And the easiest way to do that is to find amazing Spartan alumni doing the jobs you're excited about and figure out if they'd be a good fit for you. And then once you know where you belong, don't keep it locked away in your head. Make sure you're broadcasting it through keywords on LinkedIn. So the job title you want right in your headline, all of your skills across your profile. And then finally, don't just sit back and say, hey, I know the recruiter's going to find me. Make sure they actually want to choose you. And the best way to make yourself in-mail worthy is to demonstrate engagement. You're open to work, you're plugged into their firms, you're following them on LinkedIn. And then, even having covered all of those bases, there's one extra bonus hack where you can go on the offense and give yourself the very best shot, and that's getting a referral. Whether it's first degree, second degree, through alumni, there's always a way in. So please, please, please never give up in your search for that big 10x advantage. Okay, here are the bonus goodies. So first of all, you already have access to the world's best career team. And Anita and Sandra and Lisa and everyone is advocating for you. But if you've ever wanted your own LinkedIn personal Sherpa by your side on this journey, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just send me a little connection request with a personalized message. I would love to stay in touch. You know, if you've got a question tomorrow or a year from now, just shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I love to help Spartans. And then here's the bonus thing. This is my Oprah moment. I didn't tell Anita or Sandra about this, but I have actually built an entire online course all about LinkedIn hacks. And it's the only one developed by a former LinkedIn insider. It's normally $100, but it is free for Spartans and specifically only free for Spartans who join today's session. So if you want to get lifetime access to this course and save $100, you can click this link that I put into the chat right now, and you alone will get access to this, not people who watch the recording later, because I wanted to give you a little love for actually showing up and asking such awesome questions. And speaking of that, let's turn our attention to the questions that are coming in. I want to start with a question from Venkata. Venkata, feel free to unmute your line. What's on your mind?
Hello.
Hi there, how are you?
Yeah, fine. First of all, it was really informative session. Like I enjoyed a lot. Now, just I want to ask different scenarios. Okay. Definitely the majority things you have clarified. Now, let's say there are three candidates. The one, like the common things in all three candidates are like they have similar achievements. They are engaged with similar communities. They are very active. But the one who never respond to any other's post, like they never comment, they never like to the like friends or even the alumni or someone's post. The second candidate who always like the post, okay, but never comment on any post. The third person who always comment with some positive aspect. So is there any critical role inbuilt in the LinkedIn algorithm which differentiate these three type of person?
Yeah, such a good question. So whenever you have these dilemmas about, should I be engaging with every post, liking every post, commenting on every post, always come back to the source of truth. And that is this recruiter screen where all the magic happens. And as I was kind of indicating before, LinkedIn is just not that sophisticated. So as you can see at the very top, there is this binary filter of either you've engaged with their talent brand or you haven't. And so basically doing any of these things qualifies. If you follow the company on LinkedIn, you've engaged with their talent brand. If you've liked their posts, you've engaged with their talent brand. If you've commented on their posts, you've engaged with their talent brand. And so there's no extra advantage to doing one or the other or doing it 100 times. Just clicking that follow button is all you need to do to say, hey, I should be filtered in versus filtered out.
Got the point. Thank you.
Great question. I love that one. And again, if anyone is sort of like on the fence about, hey, should I be doing this or doing that? Feel free to ask because I'm happy to break those ties. Okay, let's come to a question from Adeline. Adeline says, how would you differentiate your resume from LinkedIn? And so Adeline, if you wouldn't mind unmuting for a second, I just wanted to ask you a quick follow-up question there.
Sure. Hi.
Hey, great question. When you were thinking about differentiating your resume from LinkedIn, what were you thinking about? Like, what would you maybe sort of try to make different?
I think I'm referring to like describing like the roles that I was a part of to just kind of get the attention of recruiters when they're looking on my profile, if it needs to be any different from, say, like they go to my LinkedIn profile first, and then if they're interested, they'll go to my resume. Like, how different should they be, I guess, or similar?
Yeah, great question. So imagine this, Adeline. Imagine that I look at your LinkedIn profile, I'm like, wow, Adeline is awesome. She'll be perfect for our team. And then I go to your resume and it's totally different. Like all the stuff that I just fell in love with online is like night and day on your resume. Why would that be a good experience for recruiters?
Because it allows them to get more information about you.
Okay. So I want to actually address this head on because this is such a great question. So insightful. The reality of recruiters' life is that it's an incredibly busy, incredibly fast-paced life. You know, we've talked a lot today about, oh, there's a recruiter at Cisco who's hiring for this one job. Well, the reality is, based on the latest stats, that recruiter at Cisco or anywhere is not just juggling one job, but 25 different jobs. And on average, each of those 25 open jobs has 250 candidates. So 250 resumes, 250 LinkedIn profiles.
Wow.
Yeah, wow is right. It's a tough job, right? And I wish Ali luck as he goes into the recruiting world, because it's certainly a tough one. But the reality of that sort of busy, fast-paced lifestyle is that no recruiter has the time or the willingness to get into that level of investigation. Like, Adeline had, you know, these 27 bullet points over here, but these 31 on her resume are really different. They add a lot of nuance. No, unfortunately, recruiters are operating almost at the speed of gut instinct. They're seeing your headline, they're seeing a couple of your resume bullets or a couple of your profile bullets, and they're making that snap judgment. Either Adeline seems perfect for us because she's signaling where she belongs, or she's too generic, or she's in the wrong place. I'm going to skip over her really fast. And so don't spend a moment, overthinking the recruiter dilemma, because they certainly don't. They're moving at the speed of light. Instead, the simplest, most important thing you can ever do as a student is take all of those resume bullets that you work so hard to perfect on your PDF and get them onto LinkedIn. One last question for you, Adeline. How many times a year would you say that your resume bullets are read by a recruiter? Just ballpark.
What, less than 5?
Yeah, even for a really great student
Yeah.
job seeker, maybe you hand it out at a career fair or you apply for some jobs online, 5-10 times a year, 5 seconds each time. But with LinkedIn, with millions of recruiters searching the site every day, you could potentially have 5 or 10 views just on one day. And so all of those resume bullets that you've completely perfected on your hard drive aren't doing anything for you when they're stuck on your hard drive. Instead, make sure you get them onto your profile, just copy and paste them right into your experience section. And there, they're going to get lots more visibility and get you lots more access to opportunity. Great question, Adeline.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. And then just a quick reminder, as Anita mentioned in the chat, please do fill out that survey. I would love to learn from your feedback and hopefully make the next session even more effective. And by the way, Audrey, feel free to connect with me. I would love to stay in touch with anyone on the line today. Just send me a little personalized note so you remind me how we connected. Okay, let me bring it back to Anita. Anita, I know we've covered a lot here and I apologize for going over time. Anything else that you wanted me to call out that you're hearing from students these days? Or Sandra for that matter. Oop, we might have lost them actually. Okay, so let's do this. So I know we're a little bit over time and I apologize for that. But again, let's keep the conversation going on LinkedIn itself. Send me a message, let me know how I can help. I want to make sure that as you get out there into the world, there is nothing standing in your way. And if there is, let's tear it down together. So one final note before we close up today is right now is probably the single biggest moment of opportunity for new job seekers or career changers in the history of our economy. You may have heard about the Great Resignation over the past summer, where thousands and millions of people were quitting their jobs left and right. Well, as they quit their jobs post-pandemic, that creates opportunity for you. So if you ever wanted to break into a new space or find a career that gives you access to the best work of your life, now is that time. You've got the team, you've got the tools. So I wish you tremendous success out there. And no matter where you go Spartans. Good luck, everyone.